There is something incredibly powerful about walking into a room and instantly connecting with the hearts of those around you. It's not about perfection, it's not about charisma or flawless delivery. It's about your presence. It's about the energy you carry, the truth in your voice, and the light in your story. When you walk on stage, you are not just a speaker, you are a mirror reflecting what is possible, what is beautiful, and what is real. To make people fall in love with you in 90 seconds, you must first fall in love with yourself, with your journey, and with the reason you chose to speak in the first place. The heart recognizes authenticity. The soul remembers courage. And the spirit celebrates vulnerability. That's where your power lies. Not in pretending to be perfect, but in daring to be human. Speak with your scars, not your mask. There is something sacred about standing in your truth. It does not matter how polished your shoes are or how rehearsed your lines sound. What truly matters is how willing you are to stand there broken and brave and say, "This is me, and I'm still standing." When you choose to speak from your scars instead of hiding behind a mask, you give others the courage to breathe freely in their own truth. We live in a world obsessed with perfection. Filters, scripts, curated smile sets, all a part of the illusion. But when someone stands up and strips away the performance, showing the world the rawness of their pain and the strength they found in the middle of it, something remarkable happens. The room doesn't just listen, they feel. Because deep within each of us is a longing for something real. You don't need to be a warrior without wounds. In fact, your wounds are what make your words powerful. They are not symbols of failure. They are medals of survival. Each scar is a story of something that tried to break you but didn't succeed. And when you share that story, not to be pitied but to inspire, you unlock hearts that have been silent for too long. Your story doesn't have to be dramatic to be meaningful. Even the quiet heartbreaks, the invisible battles, and the silent tears matter. They all shape you. They all teach you. And when you speak from that space of learned wisdom, you don't just share information, you offer healing. People don't fall in love with a perfect performance, they fall in love with honesty that shakes them awake. There is so much strength in vulnerability. It's easy to put on a mask and pretend everything is fine, but it takes immense courage to admit, "I was lost," or "I felt unworthy," or "I made mistakes." That is where transformation begins. Not just for you, but for everyone who listens. Because in your honesty, they find permission to acknowledge their own pain. When you speak with your scars, you don't have to shout. The truth has a way of reaching people, even in a whisper. There's a quiet power in authenticity. It doesn't demand attention, it earns it. And in that space, the audience doesn't see a speaker on a stage, they see a reflection of their own soul in the words being spoken. People are not looking for someone who has it all figured out. They are looking for someone who is still walking, still trying, still learning. That's the kind of connection that melts barriers and invites intimacy. When you tell your story from a place of humility, the audience leans in not because they admire you, but because they relate to you. The mask may make you look strong, but the scars make you unforgettable. The mask is what you wear to be accepted. The scars are what you show to be loved. When you speak from a place of hiding, you create distance. But when you speak from your healed or healing wounds, you create a bridge away for people to walk into your world and feel safe bringing their own brokenness. We are all walking mosaics cracked in places, but still glowing with the light that leaks through. If you cover your cracks, you cover your light. But when you let your pain shine through with grace, you become a lighthouse. You become a voice of hope to someone who thought they were too broken to be heard. You may think your story isn't unique, but your voice is. And the way you choose to speak about what you've survived carries a resonance that someone in that audience has been praying to hear. Not everyone needs advice. Some people just need proof that survival is possible, that growth after devastation is possible, that joy can follow despair. So many people carry silent battles in their chest. And when you get on that stage, you are not there to impress them, you are there to free them from the shame they carry, free them from the silence that has suffocated them. Your honesty can do that. Your courage can open a path they were too afraid to walk alone. Speaking from your scars isn't about reliving pain, it's about reclaiming power. It's about saying, I went through the fire and I didn't come out unburnt, but I came out alive. And in doing so, you give meaning to your suffering. You show that even ashes can bloom into something beautiful. That pain doesn't have to define you, it can refine you. The audience doesn't need a hero, they need a human. They need someone who has fallen and gotten back up. Someone who cried and kept walking. Someone who doubted and still chose to believe. When they see that in you, they find hope for themselves. You become a living example of resilience, not by claiming to be strong, but by showing that you refused to give up when you were weak. There is no shame in scars. There is only shame in pretending they don't exist. Your story matters. Your voice matters. Your journey matters. And when you speak not from a pedestal, but from a place of shared humanity, you make people feel less alone. And in that moment, love begins to grow not from applause, but from the deep-rooted connection of kindred spirits meeting in truth. Eye contact is a bridge, not a battlefield. There's a sacred power in a gaze that isn't looking to judge, but simply to understand. When you step onto any stage, whether it's a conference hall or a conversation with one person, your eyes speak before your mouth ever moves. The first few seconds before a word is spoken are already forming a connection or creating a chasm. And it all begins with how you choose to look at the people in front of you. We're often taught to make strong eye contact, to show confidence, to establish dominance, to own the room. But real connection isn't about control, it's about compassion. The eyes you meet are not there to challenge you, they're silently asking, can I trust you? Are you like me? Will you understand where I've been? If you see the audience as adversaries, your eyes will reflect fear. But if you see them as fellow humans, your gaze becomes an invitation. You don't have to scan the room with mechanical precision. You just need to see. See the nervous smile in the third row. See the slouched shoulders of someone who didn't want to be here today. See the quiet hope behind the tired eyes of a woman who's been pretending to be strong for far too long. And when you truly see them, something softens. The energy shifts. The room breathes with you. Eye contact is not a weapon, it's a bridge. It's the invisible thread that says, I'm here with you, not above you. And that thread, when woven gently, can hold more weight than 1,000 perfectly chosen words. When you look into someone's eyes with tenderness, without agenda, you create a moment of presence. In that moment, both of you are no longer strangers. You are simply souls recognizing each other in a noisy world. There is so much pain that hides in plain sight. Sometimes a person doesn't need advice or a solution. They just need to be seen. And when you're speaking, your eye contact can do exactly that. You can give someone the gift of visibility. You can remind them they matter, that they're not invisible in this life. That someone just for a moment looked at them and saw them. Don't rush through the faces in the room. Pause. Settle into the connection. Let your eyes linger not awkwardly but sincerely. Let them say what your words cannot. You are not alone. That's what makes people lean in. Not because they're impressed, but because they're moved. Because your eyes carried empathy that didn't need to be spoken out loud. We often worry about what we'll say, how we'll sound, whether we'll stumble. But in truth, what people remember is how safe you made them feel. And eye contact is one of the purest ways to create safety. When done with warmth, it creates a sanctuary. A place where walls come down and hearts open. That's when real change begins. You may notice that some people look away when you meet their eyes. That's okay. Sometimes the soul is shy. Sometimes it's carrying too much. But keep looking not with insistence, but with patience. Because even the briefest moment of shared humanity can be healing. Even if they look away, they'll remember how your eyes felt like a sunrise, like softness, like acceptance. You don't need to look everyone in the eye to connect with them. You just need to mean it when you do. Quality over quantity. Let each glance carry sincerity. Let it be a silent reminder that this isn't a performance, it's a connection, and that you're not here to be admired. You're here to be with them. Sometimes your eyes can speak the truth your heart is too afraid to say out loud. They can say, I've been through pain too. Or I understand more than you know. Or even, you're not broken. The beauty of the human face is that it doesn't lie. So don't try to hide behind forced expressions. Let your eyes be real. Let them reflect everything you are and everything you've learned along the way. When you make eye contact with gentleness, people drop their guard. They stop trying to impress you. They stop worrying about how they look because you've made it clear you're not here to judge, you're here to meet them where they are. And that, more than anything, is what makes a person fall in love with your presence. Let your gaze travel with intention. Don't be afraid to look at the quiet ones, the ones who aren't smiling, the ones who seem disengaged. Often, those are the people who need your message the most. They are testing your sincerity, waiting to see if your kindness is real. And when they realize it is, their hearts soften. You don't have to be an expert in body language to create a heartfelt moment. Just care. Just be present. Just allow your eyes to reflect what your spirit is saying. Let them say, I'm here for you. Let them say, you're safe with me. Let them say, you don't have to hide right now. Every glance is an offering, a tiny act of grace, so give freely. Let your eye contact be a soft place to land, not just for the audience, but for yourself too. Because when you see them without judgment, you also begin to see yourself with more love, more patience, more compassion. And maybe, just maybe, that's the secret. That the bridge you build through your eyes isn't just for them, it's for you too. Because love flows both ways. And the more you give it through your gaze, the more it returns to you, quietly, profoundly, in ways words never could make them feel like the only person in the room. There is something magical that happens when a person forgets they are part of a crowd and starts to feel like they are the entire reason you showed up. That's not about grandeur, it's not about charisma, it's about intention. It's about giving someone your presence so fully that they feel chosen, heard, and seen. And that kind of moment can stay with someone for a lifetime. It doesn't matter how many people are in the audience. What matters is whether you have the courage to speak to one heart at a time. Because when a message feels deeply personal, people begin to believe that change is possible for them, not just in theory, but right here, right now. And that belief can move mountains. The truth is, people are starved for genuine attention. Most walk through life feeling like background characters in someone else's story. So when you look at someone, speak to them as though nothing else matters. You remind them that they matter, that their pain is real, that their hope is valid, that their dreams deserve to be heard. This connection starts in the energy you bring. When you speak with love instead of ego, when you listen with your heart and not just your ears, when you show up not to perform but to serve, that's when people soften. They stop analyzing and start feeling. Because something about you tells them, you are safe here, this space is for you. You must learn to listen even while you're speaking. Not with your ears, but with your intuition. Notice the energy shift in the room. Feel the silent questions hanging in the air. Trust that your words can be shaped by what someone needs at that very moment. That's how you transform a talk into a moment of healing. When you give your attention fully, it doesn't go unnoticed. People can feel when you're just scanning the room for approval. And they can feel when your spirit is quietly saying, I'm here for you. That presence, that quiet sincerity can become someone's turning point. Not because you had all the answers, but because for the first time in a long time, they felt like they mattered. It doesn't take a grand gesture to make someone feel special. It takes intentional stillness, a pause, a breath, a glance that says, I see you, I hear you, I'm not rushing past you. In those tiny seconds, you plant seeds of worthiness in people who have been doubting their own value for far too long. The audience doesn't remember the slides, they remember how you made them feel. They remember the moment they felt understood. The moment they felt like your story was secretly their story too. That moment when they were no longer just another face in the crowd, but a soul worthy of being reached. When you let your heart lead, your message lands softer but deeper. Because you are no longer chasing impact, you are becoming it. People don't need a perfect delivery. They need realness. They need warmth. They need to feel like you're speaking to them, not performing for approval. Making someone feel like the only person in the room means letting go of the need to impress. It means choosing presence over polish. It means realizing that your greatest power isn't in your voice, it's in your heart. That's the part of you people remember. Not what you wore, not what you said, but how you made them feel less alone. The world is noisy, everyone is shouting to be heard. But in that noise, if you choose to whisper love, empathy, and truth into just one person's soul, you create a ripple. You don't need to be loud to be felt. You don't need to be grand to be unforgettable. You just need to be present. That one person you make feel seen. They might walk out of that room and finally decide to believe in themselves. They might take one more step toward healing. They might finally tell their story, and they'll carry your voice inside them not as a performance, but as a lifeline, because you made them feel like they mattered. When people say, "I loved your talk," what they often mean is, "I loved how you made me feel." So be intentional about your energy. Be deliberate with your gaze. Be gentle with your words. And keep asking yourself, am I making someone feel like the only person that matters in this moment? It's not about being impressive, it's about being intimate. Because when you touch one person deeply, the whole room feels it. Connection is contagious. One softened heart softens another. And before you know it, the entire space becomes alive with grace, with honesty, with healing. And maybe that's the real magic, that the moment you stop trying to win over everyone, you start transforming someone, and that someone will never forget how you looked at them, how you spoke to them, how you made them feel like they were the only person in the room, and somehow that was enough. Speak with vulnerability, not perfection. There is an extraordinary strength in showing your cracks. When you dare to be vulnerable, you step into a rare kind of power that perfection can never give you. The audience doesn't want flawless, they want real. They want to see the human behind the words, the soul, who's been through storms and still stands. That is what makes people lean in, that is what makes them listen deeply. Vulnerability is the bridge that connects hearts. When you share your struggles, your doubts, your fears, you create a sacred space where others can breathe freely. They realize they are not alone in their imperfections, that they too can rise from their broken pieces. And in that shared humanity, trust is born. It's easy to think that showing vulnerability will make you look weak. But the truth is, vulnerability is the ultimate courage. It's stepping onto the stage with your heart open, without armor, without filters. And that openness invites others to do the same. It dismantles walls that no polished speech ever could. When you speak with vulnerability, your message becomes a mirror. People see themselves reflected in your story, in your honesty, in your raw edges. And when they see that you are brave enough to show your scars, they find the strength to face their own. You become more than a speaker, you become a healer. Perfection, on the other hand, creates distance. It makes you untouchable, unreachable. It puts you on a pedestal where few can relate. But vulnerability draws people close. It says, I am human, I am flawed, and I am here with you. That simple admission breaks the illusion that anyone needs to be perfect to be worthy. The beauty of vulnerability is that it doesn't require you to have it all figured out. It welcomes questions, doubts, and pauses. It allows you to admit that you are still learning, still growing, still evolving, and that honesty is a gift to everyone who hears you. Because life isn't about perfection, it's about progress. You might fear that sharing your vulnerabilities will expose you to judgment. But remember, the people who matter are the ones you want to reach are hungry for truth, not perfection. They want to hear about the battles you fought and how you got through them. Not a polished, rehearsed victory speech, but the messy, beautiful story of survival. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you invite empathy, you invite connection, you invite hearts to soften. Because beneath the surface, everyone longs to be seen for who they really are, flaws and all. When you meet people in their imperfect humanity, you give them permission to be themselves too. Don't be afraid of silence in your speech. Sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones where you pause and let your vulnerability speak for itself. Those silences carry the weight of authenticity. They allow your audience to breathe, to reflect, to feel the depth of what you've shared. Vulnerability is not about oversharing or seeking pity. It's about choosing the right moments to open your heart. It's about being honest without burdening others. It's about showing your humanity so others can see theirs more clearly. That delicate balance is where true connection lives. Perfection hides mistakes. Vulnerability embraces them. It celebrates the journey with all its detours and failures. It honors the courage it takes to keep going even when the road is uncertain. That kind of honesty is magnetic. It pulls people in because it speaks to their own struggles and hopes. When you speak vulnerably, you also invite forgiveness both for yourself and others. You show that it's okay to be imperfect, to stumble, to fall, and that it's possible to rise again. That message gives hope and courage to anyone who's ever felt broken or unworthy. Vulnerability reminds us that we don't have to carry the weight of the world alone. It teaches us that sharing our stories lightens the load. When you dare to be vulnerable in front of others, you show them they don't have to pretend to be strong all the time. You give them permission to be human. In the dance of connection, vulnerability is the heartbeat. It moves the rhythm from shallow applause to deep resonance. It transforms a speech into a shared experience. And in that shared space, transformation happens not because you told people what to do, but because you showed them how to be. So embrace your vulnerability, speak your truths, let your heart lead the way. Because in the cracks, the light gets in. And that light shines brighter than any act of perfection ever could. In these brief 90 seconds, you hold the power to transform a room not by trying to be perfect or rehearsed, but by being deeply present, vulnerable, and genuine. You don't need to be the loudest voice or the most polished speaker. What people truly crave is connection. Connection that comes from showing up with your whole heart, making each person feel seen, and speaking your truth without fear. Remember, it's not about impressing the crowd. It's about embracing your humanity, daring to be vulnerable, and creating moments where your audience feels like the only person in the room. When you do this, you break through the noise and reach souls. You create space for healing, hope, and transformation. So step onto your stage with courage, knowing that in your authenticity lies your greatest strength. Because in the end, it's not the words you say, but the love you convey in those first 90 seconds that makes people not just listen, but love you, and that love will carry your message far beyond the moment.